Okay, so this is the Toronto Grand Prix 2015, 2025 rather, men's 50-meter freestyle. This is Heat 2. We are looking at Ethan Jones in lane 3 here. Let's watch the whole race first.
Come on, Griffin! I love you, Griffin! I love you, Will!
Okay, very nice. Let's come back to here. We've got the clock. Okay, great swim. So let's check out our position on the blocks. Overall, I'm liking it generally. Very forward. However, back leg, we're looking at a what appears to be maybe it's 90 degrees, but I kind of doubt that. It looks like it's smaller than 90 degrees. You know, from this left hip to your knee here, probably less than 90 degrees. We'd like that to be more towards 90 degrees so that it can be an entirely push motion. So potentially playing with getting this wedge back a step, and you know you're pretty far forward, but maybe leaning a bit forward, or alternatively raising the hips up to extend that angle. Let's see. It's a pretty fast start on this one. I'm pretty sure go occurs here because I'm already I'm panning right. Oh, is that a little bit of a head tilt at the start? Yeah, head dropping first. You can see that the head is dropping, the shoulders are dropping a little bit. That raises and moves our hips forward. So I'd rather be in a position where take your marks occurs, and we're already somewhere closer to this position that you are naturally reacting into, right? Let's cut out the middleman. Let's cut out this middle movement, right? We have, call it 3 steps. We have take your marks, the ready, the wasted middle movement, and then we have the third position, which is ideally something closer to this, honestly. Right now, this might be past your point of balance out and here, but that's where I'm saying. If we can move this wedge back, get that 90-degree angle that we're seeing here now, take your marks here. Then when go occurs, there's no head drop, there's no shoulder drop, there's no hip raise. It's just press. Maybe coming a little high, but great extension on the back foot. Looks like great extension on the first foot, the front foot. Head's maybe a little low. Overall, I'm really liking this. Head is definitely low, right? So that's a big hydro brake that you're hitting the water with. But very nice dive. Very, very smooth. Looks like the smoothest one in the whole lot. Maybe buddy beside you on the right here had a similar one, but pretty darn good. Underwater, a bit bouncy on that front. We can see those wrists moving up and down. In an ideal world, ribs and up. We want to see a lack of motion, and ribs and down, we want to see the most potential motion, whatever that can be, maintaining the stability of the upper body. But we do see good undulation, good amplitude going on with that lower body, so if we can just isolate and stabilize that upper body, the work you're putting in to kick is going to be more efficient. That little delay coming up to the water, you can check it out there. Okay, so it's like you get that first stroke on your left arm here. You know what? Maybe that's just my eyes deceiving me. That looks pretty consistent. But it looked like initially like there was almost like a glide. And in full speed, it kind of does look like there's a little bit of a glide. It's almost like you take that first stroke and then get into it. Make that first stroke be the one that gets you into it. A little shorter of a stroke than I've liked seeing from you in practice, but you're at least driving for it. 2 breaths at least. 3 breaths. I'd love to drop that 3 breath to 2 breath if you can manage that. That might have to mean that your first breath happens a little bit later. Where is it? It's going to be like here or something. There. there. And you know, there was the other one. Part of the reason why I like your longer stroke in practice that we've talked about, and it's actually, you know, this is usually a very bad perspective to get on swimmers because you lose the ability, especially through the screen, to determine accurate depth. You know, how far away are they moving from you? How well and efficiently are they moving over the water? But we do get the benefit. You can kind of see all of a sudden your, you know, central axis and if it's really stable or not. And you're coming in so far from the left on the left arm and so far from the right on the right arm that it looks like you're wiggling a little bit. And the more we wiggle, the less stable we are, the less efficient our stroke is. When you're laid out, reaching, long strokes are occurring, it's less bouncy. We can even see how much our hips are kind of seeming to move here. So if we can get a little bit more stable, a bit longer in the stroke, I think you'll see great benefit from that. One other thing to consider, checking out, you know, average distance per stroke through all of this. Okay, getting a sense for how far you're moving per stroke. It's looking good. It's looking good. Looking good. But now it just looks like you're kind of spinning a little bit in the last couple of meters. There's this idea that, okay, I got to drive for the wall. And I love that, right? We want to be bloodthirsty. We want to go get it. But sacrificing distance per stroke is I don't believe, really the way to do that. What we want to do is we want to preserve distance per stroke at the highest potential speed that we're able to reach for as long as possible and be consistent with that. We don't want to be training, certainly. We don't want to be in practice doing, you know, a great stroke and then when it comes to a meet and a race suddenly have this competition mindset take over and then do a different kind of stroke that we don't practice. We only get good at the things we practice. So practicing a long, strong stroke, developing good distance per stroke with great hold is the thing I want to see you choose to do in those last 5 meters. Those last 5 meters are key. If you're traveling fast, which you are, getting out into a one-arm reaching streamline position to, you know, quote unquote glide into the wall, it's not that bad, right? If you were moving slow, i.e. like in breaststroke, you know, you really need to take another stroke in breaststroke kind of right away. Once you reach full extension, you got to take that next stroke because we know it's such a slow stroke and such an inefficient stroke that if we wait and we glide for too long, we're going to lose too much velocity. So we got to get the next cycle going. Freestyle, unlike breaststroke, is the fastest stroke, right? We have the most potential to gain off of a glide. We're going to be operating at a high speed. So let's preserve that high speed. You know, if you're gliding for 2 feet, maybe that's too long of a glide. But if you're gliding for a foot, you know, you're probably okay. You're probably traveling at the same speed as you were. And if the strokes are all the same distance per stroke, rather than 5 strokes or something like that in there, let's actually count it out. Let's try and see what we're dealing with here. So we know 5 meters is going to be right around here. Let's call that your 5 meter mark. So 1, 2, okay, well that confused me immediately, but let's do this again. Okay, so we're going to say, there's your stroke. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a reach. So 5 strokes in 5 meters versus let's mark from this 5 meters to that 5 meters. 1, okay, come on, let's get this together. Kind of hard, but let's I think maybe this, yeah, okay, so we're going to mark from this to that because we know that's going to be about 5 meters, and that's maybe a bit more approximate to what we were seeing down there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you know what? So maybe your distance per stroke is preserved. You know, that is the issue with these perspectives. But nonetheless, something to consider, and certainly going for a longer stroke with good distance per stroke is something I'd like you to try and keep going toward. Overall, great swim, dude.